global food system faces mounting pressures from climate change, supply chain shocks, conflicts, and economic instability. At the UNFSS Plus 4 summit that took place in Addis Ababa recently, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed warned of declining aid and weakening cooperation, even as Ethiopia leads with transformative actions like achieving wheat self-sufficiency and planting over 40 billion trees under its Green Legacy initiative. However, the 2025 State of Food Security and Nutrition (SOFI) report shows Africa falling behind on food security, underscoring the need for systemic reforms, innovative financing, and global collaboration. The summit's call to action, echoed by global leaders, demands urgent investment and political will to scale solutions and avert crises. Hello and welcome to our weekly roundup. I'm Gamachisa Mandida, your host, joined by my colleagues Zelalem Yibeltal and Girma Mugisa. Gentlemen, welcome to our program.
Thank you very much.
Well, Zelalem, I just would like to begin with opening speech made by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed during this summit. Of course, he just mentioned challenges to securing, food self-sufficiency, both in the country and in the African continent. And he mentioned of climate change, supply chain shocks, conflicts, economic disruptions, and widening inequalities. And Ethiopia have taken bold steps, have made decisions regarding these. And can we start with that, please, Zelalem?
The second United Nations Food System Summit was conducted here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. It was conducted for 3 consecutive days. And of course, the summit was co-hosted by Ethiopia and Italy. And the summit has brought together thousands of participants from 4 corners of the world. The summit has brought best minds from all parts of the world, like global leaders, professionals, policymakers, and other prominent figures have attended this super important global summit, which was conducted here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And global leaders, head of states and governments, and other global leaders as well have delivered insightful speeches. President of Kenya, for example, William Ruto, President of Comoros, Azali Assoumani, President of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, Prime Minister of Italy, Her Excellency Giorgia Meloni, the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, and of course, Ethiopian Prime Minister, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, have all delivered speech. Of course, other leaders also delivered their important and insightful speech there. So, as you said, let's start with the speech of His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed said that, following the 2021 summit, Food System Summit, which was conducted in New York, United States, Ethiopia has been launching its comprehensive roadmap in its Food System Transformation Initiative. And that Ethiopia's Food System Transformation Initiative has engaged lots of stakeholders, for example, private sector, development partners, and other stakeholders as well. So it has engaged lots of stakeholders, and engaging those various stakeholders has brought positive outcomes for Ethiopia. And in particular, he shared Ethiopia's experience in terms of food security and in terms of Green Legacy initiatives. For instance, in terms of food security, for instance, Ethiopia has been able to end its wheat import. Much of Ethiopia's history has been connected with importing wheat products from outside world. So after the Food System Transformation Initiative and after lots of macroeconomic reforms being underway in Ethiopia, Ethiopia has been able to end its wheat imports. Ethiopia used to spend like $billions to import wheat from outside world. And now Ethiopia has ended that trajectory, and that was a great deal of success for Ethiopia. And His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed has also shared Ethiopia's experience in Green Legacy initiative. And during the summit, he said that Ethiopia has planted more than 46 billion trees over the past 4 years. This is also massive success, isn't it? And it has also got huge international recognition and huge applause. Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed has recommended that African leaders, together with other global leaders and stakeholders, need to work in a concerted manner to end global hunger, to end global malnutrition, undernutrition, and all sorts of crises related with food security. And that was, of course, the major extracts of His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed's speech.
Thank you, Zelalem. Gurmat, let me come to you. Of course, there is one thing that is very clear. Global leaders assert that they need to rethink the financing, production, and governance of agri-food system in general, both, in the African continent and the rest of the world, because, millions of people just face lack of food, lack of enough food. And even in nations where we have, the so-called adequate food, the question of the nutrition value of just that food nations, people in different countries, consume is under question, of course. So, Germa, can you tell us, what the global leaders who attended this summit have said on this?
Okay, thank you so much, Gemachis, for this opportunity. As Zelalem articulates, global leaders are called for action during this summit, especially how to transform food systems, which one of the challenges of the globe. For example, let I add something what the Prime Minister seriously mentioned at the summit, particularly the flagship initiative has been undertaken by Ethiopian government. For instance, the Prime Minister elaborates initiative like as bounty of basket, which is very important in Ethiopia, particularly to diversify food, like as what's called dairy, poultry, fisheries, and so on. So in order to consume local, or in order to consume people, or in order to advance the food security in the country. And also others leaders very articulates how can the current challenge of food security system across the globe to be achieved, particularly when you see there is also Agenda 2063 as well as for there is Sustainable Development Goal, which remains within 5 years. Still, particularly African countries, not on the track, they are off the track to ensure food security. For example, Kenyan president stressed on these issues on the call for African countries how to come and how to maybe overcome this challenge by enhancing productivities, and also by using like as climate smart agriculture methods, by using various technology in order to overcome these challenges. For example, the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, expressed the Italy commitment, particularly to support African countries to overcome these challenges, and also how to achieve Sustainable Development Goal, what's called zero hunger. Still, as you mentioned later, there is a report launching at the sideline of that summit, what's called State of Food Security and Nutrition in World 2025. That report indicates Africa is still under pressure to have nutrition, to eradicate poverty and also malnutrition. So it is important for globe to overcome such challenges in order to achieve sustainable development goals.
Thank you, Girma. Zelalem, could you add on the utilization of technology in order to be successful in achieving food sovereignty in different countries, especially in African countries, and generally speaking in the developing world?
Yeah, technology is critically imperative for Africans and for the rest of the world to secure food. The thing is, for example, if you take Ethiopia, Ethiopia has been implementing irrigation in recent years. That's why Ethiopia has been able to produce surplus wheat products. So technology is very much important. And in addition to this, countries need to build climate resilient agriculture and climate resilient economy. For example, if you take the example of Africa, Africa as a continent is very much prone to climate induced problems like soil erosion, drought, and other climate change impacts. So it's imperative, it's essential, it's necessity for Africans and for other developing countries to make sure that their agriculture, their economy is climate resilient. Otherwise, whenever there is impact of climate change, they will not be able to produce what they need. And yeah, you want to add?
Yeah, Zelalem, you remind me of this important point about our irrigation practices in Ethiopia and in many African countries or developing world in general. Well, countries like Ethiopia, we rely on rainfall,
Yes.
just to produce agricultural crops or whatever related to the agriculture sector. But our reliance on irrigation is very minimal. It has been reported very well by experts, by farmers, engaged, in farming or in agriculture in general. So Ethiopia needs to give focus to irrigation in general in order to come up with, immediate solutions. Unfortunately, we have, problem with regard to utilization of our irrigation resources or wealth in general.
Yeah.
So what should be done here? I mean, I've heard, experts complaining Ethiopia is not using, its resources to make the best out of, its irrigation practices. And the last time, when we had this panel regarding the use of, better technologies in the agriculture sector, some experts, complained that we know little about irrigation in general, and the practice is very minimal. And what should be done here?
Yeah, as you rightly stipulated, there are problems in terms of utilizing irrigation in effective manner. The problem related to knowledge, the problem related to skill, the problem related to finance as well. There are lots of problems. But the underlying fact is Ethiopia has now embarked on utilizing its water resource for irrigation. Ethiopia has abundant water resource. And of course, Ethiopia is sometimes regarded as the water tower of Africa. There are lots of rivers, oceans, and streams in the country. So Ethiopia is utilizing those irrigation potentials. That's why Ethiopia has been able to produce surplus wheat products, isn't it? Hadn't the country used those water resources for irrigation, it couldn't have produced that much amount of wheat products.
Yes, in the so-called arid places in the country.
Arid places,
we have a lot of water reserve.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we couldn't have enough water wells.
Yes. Yes.
And take, just the so-called, arid areas in the country, arid regions in the country, in the eastern part of the country, in the southern part of the country. We have a lot of water resource under the crust.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And they haven't been utilized yet for different reasons.
Of course, reasons.
We're not meant to mention, these reasons, but I think focus must be given, to these untapped resources. So the Ethiopian government, needs to give focus to these areas and the use of technology and the use of, extracting, water from the crust.
Yes.
Yeah. Is very important. And I think this summit must have covered it.
The thing is, there are lots of things to be done in terms of boosting the agriculture sector. Ethiopia's the backbone of Ethiopia's economy is agriculture. So agriculture needs to be prioritized. Agriculture needs to be the focus of the government. And of course, various activities are underway to modernize the agriculture, and we are witnessing the fruits of that. As I repeatedly said, the wheat product that we have produced so far is one example for this. Ethiopia has ended its import of wheat products, and instead Ethiopia has interestingly started to export wheat product for outside the world. This is amazing. This is also recognized by world leaders. I heard during the second United Nations Food System Summit, which was held here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, has been admiring Ethiopia's journey towards wheat product. So there are lots of things to be done in terms of fostering the agriculture sector. In relation to this, I want to say a few words about Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative as well. Of course, I said in the beginning, Ethiopian Prime Minister has said that Ethiopia has been able to plant more than 46 billion trees. That's amazing success. By the way, the Prime Minister said that some 3-4 days ago during the second United Nations Food System Summit. But after that, yesterday, there was a great tree planting campaign in Ethiopia. Ethiopia's plan was to plant like more than 700 million trees in a single day. That was a huge, ambitious plan. But interestingly, the country was able to succeed that. Ethiopia has been able to plant more than 700 million trees in a single day. That's historical. You know, the good thing about this is, now planting tree has become the culture of Ethiopia. In particular, during the rainy season, Ethiopians are accustomed to the culture of planting tree. You know, if something becomes the culture, the habit of the people, you know, it's going to be successful. So it has become the culture and the habits of Ethiopians. So in Green Legacy Initiative, in modernizing the agriculture sector of the country, Ethiopia has done a lot. And of course, a lot has to be done.
Yes, Zelalem, very good. Well, in relation to this, three things are surfacing, or we have to think of three things that have to be acted on, which is the bold financing, the innovative solutions, and the political will. These three must follow one another. Yeah? Because previously, the Ethiopian government, long time ago, you know, have ensured, you know, surplus production of corn, for example, if you remember. But the problem was this surplus production of corn could not be, you know, transported to places that are in need of it.
Yeah.
And in some places we had, you know, more surplus that was not transported, and then farmers, you know, suffered from that because they didn't have, you know, customers to buy them, to buy the producers, the corn. This shows that, you know, there must be, you know, a kind of approach in which we consider this as a package. Okay, so you produce it somewhere, you need to get it to those
consumers,
targets or those consumers, and then you need to have, you know, the logistics for this. So for this to happen, you know, we need bold financing, innovative solutions, and political will. What do we mean by, you know, bold financing? What do we mean by innovative solutions and political will in this regard? Can you explain this, please?
Yes, innovative solutions and bold commitments. Let's stay a little bit on the leader's speech during the second United Nations Food System Summit.
Yes.
Because one way or other, the speeches are connected with what you have raised, Gammach. Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, she has also conveyed her message during the summit, and she said that food insecurity has affected significant percentage of the world. And significant of the number is here in African continent. So Africa needs to go forward in terms of implementing food system transformation initiative. And she said that this needs finance, this needs huge investment, huge infrastructure. And of course, she expressed the steadfast commitment of her government, the government of Italy, in supporting Africa towards their activity in food system transformation. She said that Italy will support Africa not to encourage dependency, but to help Africans in other developing countries to meet their food demand, to make sure that African countries are self-reliant. So that needs bold commitment, that needs huge investment as well. And the investment may come from domestic source or from international global partners. Anyway, investment is very vital here. The other point that the Prime Minister of Italy, Her Excellency Giorgia Meloni, raised was the food crisis in the world. It is further exacerbated by lots of problems, lots of violence and wars and conflicts throughout the world. And in particular, she raised the conflict, the war going on between Ukraine and Russia. You know, we do remember that when the war broke out between the two nations, Ukraine and Russia, you know, it was increasingly difficult to import food and agricultural products from this country. You know, Ukraine and Russia are the two major producers of agricultural products, and they do export, you know, massive agricultural products, foods to the outside world. And Africa's are the major importer of those agricultural products. So when there is a war between the two countries, it was difficult for Africans and the rest of the world to import food and agricultural products from these countries. So violence by itself, chaos by itself, war by itself affecting the food crisis. So the food crisis in the food system in general, the issue of food is multifaceted problem and it needs global action. It's a social and economic and political problem of the world, which needs a concerted effort between and among countries and leaders of the world.
I just would like you to tell us more about what we mean by innovative solutions for this challenge. Well, we know that, just time is changing fast. Everything around us is changing, in a speed of light, we can say, if we're not exaggerating. And so every now and then we encounter new challenges which require innovative solutions in every aspect. Well, we can't mention all of them, but I hope we can say, just the most important ones. So, Girma, can you tell us about these innovative solutions?
Thank you so much, Gemegis. I wanted to add what Zalala mentioned, particularly regarding to financing support. The Prime Minister stated during the summit that Africa can feed itself. Not only Africa, the world, but it's mentioned it's required financial support because, as you know, there is a gap of financial support to support agriculture or food security in Africa particularly. For example, there is financing under pressure, and also there is multilateral cooperation going to strain at this time. So such issues are very difficult for Africa particularly to transform its food systems. But to overcome such challenges, it is important particularly to leverage a private capital alongside public support, or to provide green climate bonds in order to more transform agriculture sectors, what's ongoing in Africa. You mentioned, I think, the tools or the mechanisms that important to transform agriculture sector is that particularly we have to use innovative ways to transform agriculture. For example, it is important to use climate resilience or climate smart agriculture efforts, for example, like seeds production. For example, we have no enough base seeds in Africa. So it's important to use base seeds. That's important to transform food systems in Africa. And also we have to use technology-based, research-based innovation in order to transform this sector. One thing is, during the summit, President of Kenya stressed that artificial intelligence become emerging in various sectors. So it is important to use artificial intelligence, particularly how we can transform our agriculture sectors, and also how we can use innovative solution. For example, we have youth who is very working in various entrepreneurs in Africa, particularly innovative ways is important to transform agricultures or to transform food security in Africa.
Yeah, Zalalam, let me come to you. Well, Ethiopia is called, a water tower.
Yeah.
Yeah? And so water is not that much, difficult for us to access. Because, thank God, we have rainfall, we have untapped, under the ground, we have too much water that has not been, tapped fully yet. And this tells us that, of course, we still have, a chance to utilize, these untapped resources.
Yeah.
Yeah? If we say that, let me take you to the saying of from the farm to the fork, in which, we have various actors at different levels. Yeah? So unless and otherwise, we deal with these actors, okay, we can see it, as a system. Then there must be, something done different now in order to ensure, just that success that we seek very much.
Yeah.
And so let me mention this again, from the farm to the fork. What really should be, considered as a priority here?
Yes, as you rightly said, for many of its history, Ethiopia has been leading like rain-fed agriculture. That's to say that if there is a rain, there is agriculture. If there is no rain, there is no agriculture. That trajectory has to end, and the government has started to end that trajectory. And the government has been able to see massive success, massive result, positive outcome from its modernization of agriculture. So coming to your question, from farm to fork, that tells you that there are lots of stakeholders between the farm and the fork. There is a farm and the fork, and between the two destinations, there are lots of stakeholders. There are lots of actors. That's why Ethiopia's food system transformation initiative has engaged lots of actors, like the private actors. For example, the merchants do have a say from the farm to the fork. The merchants do have a say. The merchants need to go to the farm and they need to bring the products and they need to bring to the consumers. So the merchants, the private sectors do have involvement.
But we have here gatekeepers as well.
Gatekeepers.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So
you need to...
I mean, we could have, surplus agricultural products at some place. Yeah, at some places.
Yeah.
However, these do not reach, just customers
Yes.
or consumers like you and I.
Yeah.
Yeah?
There are lots of impediments. There are lots of factors.
Yeah. So there must be, some new approach to this challenge.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just keep on, repeating the same situation again and again.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's of course what I was talking about.
Yes.
That is, the why food system transformation initiative has come. In 2021, the United Nations has evaluated and assessed the implementation of those sustainable development goals. And the United Nations has seen that those goals are not going well. Therefore, there needs to be new way. There needs to be new ways of thinking and doing. We can't bring new results. We can't see miraculous and miraculous things in the way that we had been going. So the United Nations has adopted the Food System Transformation Initiative. So with the Food System Transformation Initiative, there are lots of stakeholders, like I said before. So from farm to fork, there are stakeholders. Private sectors, the merchants are one stakeholders. For instance, like Ethiopian Prime Minister His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed pointed out, researchers are one stakeholders. The researchers need to go to the farm and need to see what's happening there in the spot, there in the field, and they need to figure out the problems of the farming, and they need to come up with innovative solutions. So Ethiopia's Food System Innovation Initiative has engaged researchers as well. Ethiopia's Food System Initiative has also engaged development partners. There are lots of development partners, including the big United Nations. So the United Nations is funding, is supporting Ethiopia's development activities, including the food system. So Ethiopia is utilizing those development partners. By the way, Ethiopia is an example for the rest of the world in terms of working with the United Nations and in terms of utilizing the resource of the United Nations in a wise and effective manner. So there are lots of activities being underway recently.
Yes. Girma, let me take you to our last point, which is calls are made by global figures during this summit. There is what we call a system overhaul that integrates food, climate, and health policies. Just what do we mean by that, Girma?
Thank you so much. When you say about food, it is multi-dynamics. It includes food, health, as well as agriculture, so and so. So it is integrated. We cannot separate such issues. For example, there is projects called in Rwanda nutrition scorecard. That means the initiatives that incorporate both health, agriculture, and environment together. So this is very important for African nation or for us to integrate our policies or our strategies. For example, the Prime Minister states that like as the quota declaration, which is very important in order to reduce undernutrition of child by 2030, which means it is incorporated in multi-sectoral, not only in one sectors only. Such initiative is very important in order to overcome such challenge. Particularly during this summit, leaders also stress African countries or the developed countries come together in order to implement the policies, for example, United Nations policies to their national policies. So this is very important, particularly to integrate food, climate, and healthy policies together. For example, our Green Legacy initiatives, not planting the, trees. These include agroforestry or agro-foods, which is very important, like as to use as food. For example, there is vegetables, fruits like avocado, so and so. Such initiatives is very important, particularly what we are seeing here in Ethiopia. For example, our wheat production is one of the examples that we are observing here in Ethiopia.
I think you wrapped, what Prime Minister Abiy meant by, shift from aid to self-sufficiency. Yeah, just these projects or these approaches, will eventually allow Ethiopia to be self-sufficient. Yeah. Zelalem, let me take you to what other leaders who participated in this summit, have said, especially as a takeaway from the summit.
Yes, there are enormous takeaways of the summit. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres encouraged countries to ensure their food sovereignty. And the Secretary General has also raised enormous issues with regards to food insecurity in the world, from the crisis in Gaza to Sudan. We do know that millions of children in these countries like Gaza, Sudan, and other parts of the country in war-torn regions of the world are grappling with access to food.
Nations, must be politically, cooperating, in order to make this successful, to make this move successful.
Exactly.
And
the
of
thing
course,
is,
$300 billion per year is required in order to end hunger by 2030. And the question is, do we have, just this systemic change implemented, and do we have, this unprecedented collaboration required, needed, called on? I think this is, the assignment for every one of us, for every nation. And nations must ensure that they collaborate in a way that is unprecedented, and they invest this finance. Yeah. So 300 billion per year is a lot of finance, a lot of money, and nations, must be willing to invest, such money into the system, into the food system. Yeah. Zelalem and Girma, I think time limits us here, so we need to wrap today's program. Thank you very much for your
Thanks.
Viewers, thank you very much. Today's edition ends right here, and next time we'll come up with a new one. Until then, goodbye.